The rhythmic hum of the station's core reactor was the only companion Elian had during his night shifts. He preferred it that with the solitude of the maintenance tunnels gave him time to think, to breathe away from the crowded upper levels of Nexus Station. Tonight, something felt different. The air recyclers seemed to whisper with an unfamiliar pattern, drawing him deeper into the rarely visited Section D. Just another sensor glitch, he muttered, adjusting the diagnostic tool strapped to his wrist. The blue glow from his device cast eerie shadows along the curved metal walls. Elian had spent 7 years maintaining the lifelines of this orbital outpost, and he knew every pipe, every circuit junction by heart. When he heard the soft scraping sound, he froze. Station regulations were clear: no unauthorized personnel in the maintenance sectors. Yet there it was again, a gentle movement from behind the thermal regulator panel. "Hello," Elian called out, his voice steady despite the quickening of his pulse. "Security clearance is required for this sector." Silence followed, then a shuffle. Elian moved closer, tool belt jingling softly against his uniform. When he peered around the massive cooling unit, his breath caught in his throat. Huddled in the corner was a woman, not human. Her skin shimmered with a soft purple hue, delicate patterns tracing along her arms like constellations. Wide, luminescent eyes stared back at him with equal parts fear and defiance. "Please," she whispered, her voice melodic yet strained. "I mean no harm." Elian's training demanded he report any unauthorized aliens immediately. The station was on high alert after diplomatic relations with the Lyran Confederation had collapsed. But something in her eyes made him hesitate. "You're Lyran," he said. "Not a question, but a realization. How did you get past security?" She shifted, revealing a small pack clutched against her chest. "My name is Naya. I stowed away on a cargo shuttle. I had no choice." The logical part of Elian's mind screamed danger. Harboring a Lyran during these tensions could cost him his job, maybe his freedom. Yet he found himself kneeling slowly, keeping his movements non-threatening. "Are you injured?" he asked, noticing the way she cradled her side. Naya shook her head slightly. "Just hungry. Tired. I've been hiding for 3 cycles." Elian checked his surroundings instinctively. The security drones wouldn't patrol this section for another 4 hours. He made a decision that would change everything. "Stay here," he said, unclipping his water container and offering it to her. "I'll bring food when my shift ends." Relief washed over her features, the patterns on her skin brightening slightly. "Why would you help me?" Elian found himself unable to articulate the feeling. "Let's just say I've never been good at following senseless rules." As he turned to leave, Aya reached out, her fingers lightly brushing his wrist. The touch sent an unexpected warmth through him. "Thank you," she whispered. That night, as Elian smuggled rations and medical supplies back to Section D, he knew he was crossing a line from which there would be no return. Yet when he saw Naya's grateful smile as she accepted the offering, something long dormant within him stirred to life, under the artificial lights of a station floating between worlds. An unlikely connection formed, fragile as starlight, yet somehow just as enduring. Days melted into weeks as Elian transformed a forgotten storage alcove in Section D into a makeshift home for Naya. Old emergency blankets became bedding, and repurposed maintenance panels created privacy screens. Each day brought new risks, but also deepening trust between them. "Your station orbits a beautiful world," Naya observed one evening. Gazing at Earth through a small viewport Elian had uncovered for her, her purple fingers traced the continents visible below. Elian nodded, setting down a tray of food he'd smuggled from the mess hall. "Yet we still fight over it." Naya's luminescent eyes dimmed slightly. "On Lyra, we have a saying: stars shine brightest when viewed together." She accepted the offered meal with graceful hands. "My people weren't always at war with humans. Once we shared knowledge freely." Elian settled beside her, their shoulders nearly touching in the cramped space. "What happened?" "Fear," she said simply. "Fear and misunderstanding. When humans discovered our ability to share emotions through touch, some believed we would use it to manipulate minds." She smiled sadly. yet we consider it sacred only shared with those we trust completely. Elian watched her eat, fascinated by the delicate way she handled each item. Is that why you left? The war. Naya set down her fork, the patterns on her skin darkening with emotion. I was a cultural liaison before the conflict. When diplomatic relations ended, I was to be imprisoned as a potential spy. Her voice dropped to a whisper. My own supervisor helped me escape. Said I didn't deserve to suffer for politicians' mistakes. Something protective stirred in Elian's chest. Without thinking, he reached out, his hand covering hers. You're safe here. The moment their skin connected, a gentle warmth spread up his arm, not unpleasant, but startling. Naya's eyes widened, and she quickly pulled away. I'm sorry, she said, looking embarrassed. When our emotions are strong, sometimes the connection happens involuntarily. Elian flexed his fingers, still feeling the lingering sensation. What did you feel? She met his gaze directly. Your compassion, your loneliness. A soft smile touched her lips. And something else, something growing. The admission hung between them, delicate and dangerous. That night, after Elian returned to his quarters, he couldn't sleep. The warmth of Naya's touch remained, as did the realization that protecting her had become more than just an act of rebellion against senseless regulations. It had become a need as essential as breathing. The emergency alert blared through. Nexus station, causing Alien to drop the circuit board he was repairing. Attention all personnel. Security sweep commencing in all sectors. Report any suspicious activity immediately. His heart hammered against his ribs as he abandoned his work and rushed toward Section D. The sweep would include maintenance tunnels. They would find Naya. When he reached their hidden sanctuary, she was already packing her few belongings. They know I'm here, she said, her voice steady, despite the fear evident in her trembling hands. No, Elian insisted, helping her gather the items. It's a random sweep. Happens every few months. We can't take that chance. Naya looked up at him, her purple skin paler than usual. You've risked too much already. Elian made a split-second decision. My quarters. They never search personal cabins without cause. He checked the corridor. It's our only option. The journey through the maintenance tunnels was tense, each intersection a potential disaster. Twice they had to hide as security drones passed. When they finally reached Ilian's small cabin, Naya collapsed onto his bed, exhaustion etched across her features. Rest, he said, securing the door. You're safe here. As a night cycle fell across the station, they sat together on his narrow bed, speaking in hushed tones. The proximity felt different, here more intimate in this space that was truly his. Why did you help me? Naya asked, her luminescent eyes searching his face. You could lose everything. Elian considered the question carefully. Before you arrived, I existed, worked, slept, but I wasn't living. He gazed at the small plants he cultivated by his viewport, his only companions until now. Maybe I was looking for something worth risking everything for. Naya's hand found his. And this time, he didn't pull away from the warm connection that flowed between them. Her patterns glowed softly in the dim light. Among my people, she whispered, this connection is sacred. It cannot lie. Her fingers intertwined with his. Feel what I feel. The sensation began gently, a tingling warmth that spread from their joined hands throughout his body. Then came the emotions. Gratitude, affection, and something deeper that made his breath catch. Not just her feelings, but a mirror reflecting his own heart back to him. Elian moved closer, drawn by an undeniable pull. Is this real? He asked, his free hand hovering near her cheek. Naya nodded, leaning into his touch. More real than anything in this universe? When their lips met. The connection intensified, a bridge between two worlds, two hearts. Her skin felt like silk beneath his fingertips, the patterns illuminating with each touch. They moved together with gentle exploration, learning each other in the universal language that needed no translation. Later, as Naya rested her head on his chest, she traced patterns on his skin that matched her own. Your heartbeat, she whispered. It tells a story. Elian held her closer, knowing that tomorrow would bring new dangers. But for tonight, in this forbidden sanctuary between worlds, it found something worth protecting, something worth fighting for. The soft chime of Elian's communication device shattered the peaceful morning. He carefully extracted himself from Naya's sleeping form, her purple skin glowing softly in the dim light of his. Quarters Maintenance Chief Elian came the stern voice of Security Director Voss. Report. To command immediately. Cold dread settled in his stomach. Acknowledged, he replied, trying to keep his voice steady. On my way. Naya's eyes fluttered open, instantly alert to his tension. What's wrong? Probably nothing, he lied, pulling on his uniform. Stay here. Door locked. Lights minimal. I'll be back soon. The command center buzzed with unusual activity. Screens displayed security footage from across the station, and officers moved with heightened urgency. Director Voss, a tall woman with steel-gray hair and sharper eyes, motioned Elian to a private conference room. You've been working in Section D extensively these past weeks, she stated without preamble. Elian kept his expression neutral. Yes, ma'am. The thermal regulators needed recalibration for 3 weeks. Voss raised an eyebrow. She tapped her datapad, bringing up a series of logs. And your food consumption has nearly doubled. His mind raced for explanations. I've been working double shifts. The extra calories stop. Voss cut him off. We detected trace Lyran biosignatures in the maintenance tunnels. She leaned forward. Are you harboring a fugitive, Chief Elian? The question hung in the air between them. Denial would only buy time, not freedom. Voss was too thorough, too intelligent. What happens to Lyrans found on the station? He asked instead. Something shifted in Voss's expression, not softening, but a flicker of understanding. That's not an answer. It is if you're human, Elian replied quietly. Voss sighed, lowering her voice. Military intelligence wants any Lyrans for interrogation. The political situation is deteriorating rapidly. She studied him. You're one of my best engineers, Elian. Don't throw away your career for what? He challenged. For compassion? For doing what's right instead of what's ordered? For a connection that can't possibly last, she finished, her tone surprisingly gentle. The sweep reaches your sector tomorrow. My hands will be tied then. She stood, straightening her uniform. Consider yourself on mandatory rest today. Dismissed. The message was clear. He had 1 day to fix this. 1 chance before official discovery. When Elian returned to his quarters, Naya knew immediately. They found evidence, she said, not a question. He nodded, taking her hands in his. We have until tomorrow. Naya's patterns darkened with distress. I never meant to bring this danger to you. You didn't bring danger, you brought life, Elian said fiercely. He pulled her close, breathing in her unique scent that reminded him of thunderstorms and distant stars. There's a supply shuttle leaving for the Jupiter outpost tonight. The captain owes me a favor. Hope flickered across her features. We could escape? You could, he corrected gently. If I disappear too, they'll hunt us both. But if I stay, create a diversion. ... Naya's eyes widened with understanding and pain. No, I won't leave you. As daylight faded from the viewport, they crafted their desperate plan. Each moment together now felt precious, weighted with the knowledge of coming separation. When night fell, they loved each other with desperate intensity, memorizing every touch, every whispered word. In my culture, Naya murmured as they lay intertwined. We believe souls that connect deeply find each other across lifetimes. Across galaxies, Elian traced the patterns on her shoulder that now seemed as familiar as his own heartbeat. Then this isn't goodbye, he whispered against her skin. Just a detour in our journey. The station's night cycle deepened around them, shadows concealing the tears they both tried to hide. The cargo bay hummed with activity as workers loaded the final supplies onto the Jupiter-bound shuttle. Elian moved through his security routine with mechanical precision, his real focus on the ventilation shaft where Naya waited. His access card would get her aboard, but timing was everything. Final checks complete, Chief? Asked a young technician. Elian nodded, forcing a casual smile. Just one more system to verify. You can take your break. As the bay cleared for the meal rotation, Elian tapped a coded sequence on his wrist device, their signal. Moments later, Naya emerged from the shaft, moving silently across the loading area. She wore a maintenance uniform he'd modified, her purple skin concealed by gloves and a breathing mask that wouldn't raise questions on a work crew. Remember, stay hidden until you reach Jupiter, he whispered, pressing his access card and a data chip into her hand. My friend Marcus will meet you. The coordinates are here. Naya clutched the items tightly. Come with me, she pleaded one last time. We can find another way. The station's warning system chose that moment to blare to life. Attention all personnel. Security lockdown in progress. Remain at your stations. They've moved up the sweep, Elian realized with horror. You need to go now. They could hear boots approaching security teams deploying throughout the station. In seconds, they would reach the cargo bay. Naya's eyes shimmered with tears. I can't, you must, Elian insisted, guiding her toward the shuttle's service hatch. For both of us, as the footsteps grew louder, Naya pulled him close for one final kiss. The emotional connection flared between them, not just love and grief, but a promise. When they separated, she pressed something into his palm, a small crystal that pulsed with soft purple light. To find me, she whispered. When it's safe, the cargo bay doors slid open as Naya disappeared into the shuttle. Security officers poured in, weapons raised with Director Voss at the lead. Chief Elian, she called out. Step away from the shuttle. Time seemed to freeze as Elian made his choice. With deliberate calm, he pressed the launch sequence and stepped back, hands raised. There's no one else here, he said clearly. Just me. Voss approached slowly, her eyes moving between Elian and the departing shuttle. You know the penalty for interfering with station security? I do, he acknowledged. Something unexpected happened, then Voss turned to her team. Secure the bay. I'll handle the chief personally. When they were alone, she spoke softly. The shuttle manifest shows an extra environmental unit. Curious, Elian remained silent, the crystal warm in his pocket. Detention or resignation? Voss said finally. Those are your options. Choose now. Resignation, Elian answered without hesitation. Voss nodded. Effective immediately. You have 48 hours to clear station property. Her eyes held a message he couldn't quite read. Jupiter Outpost is always short on good engineers, I hear. Understanding dawned slowly. She was offering him a path not freedom, but possibility. 3 months later, as a transport ship approached Jupiter's orbital station, Elian stood at the viewport, the Lorraine crystal pulsing stronger in his hand. Each beat matched his own heart, growing brighter as the distance between them shortened. The station appeared on the horizon, a glittering construct against the massive gas giant. Somewhere within those walls waited Naya, and the future they had risked everything to find. As the ship docked, Elian felt a familiar warmth spread through him, the unmistakable sensation of their connection reawakening. Beyond regulations, beyond species, beyond the stars themselves. They had found something the growing conflict couldn't destroy, a bridge between. Worlds that began with a simple choice of compassion. When the airlock doors finally opened, he saw her waiting. Naya's purple skin glowed with joy, her patterns brightening as their eyes met across the crowded arrival bay. No words were needed as she stepped into his arms, resting her head against his chest. Your heartbeat, she whispered, still tells our story. And in that moment, as stations orbited and empires clashed, their story continued, proof that even in the coldest reaches of space, the warmest connections could still thrive.